So there was an interesting debate on Piers Morgan with the usual triggered leftist Mark Lamont Hill, who absolutely melts down near the end of the show. It was very interesting. This deals with what I've been talking about. Has Black America run out of the moral currency that they were spending? And now there's backlash to the continued stomping that white people might perceive, and Black people getting preferential treatment in terms of their ability to say and denigrate other races in whatever manner they desire, and facing little, if any, backlash for it. So, with that said, let's get into it.
Look, my take on this is a stain on all their houses, right? I just don't know what is happening to society when you have such vast sums of money being raised for what seems to me to be deliberate, racially charged, motivational reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're fighting ugly with ugly right now. And I think this level of racial tribalism and hostility is just simply not sustainable in such a diverse democracy like America. I think it's, one is really a reaction to the other. I think both campaigns are really hideous, and I think we're showing our ugliest colors. I mean, in the scheme of things, these are small sums relative to the population of America, but you do see, I think, a really tremendous explosion of ugliness and racial hostility that I think that we should all be ashamed and embarrassed of.
Yeah, I mean, you described it.
I actually agree with her. I don't appreciate people using such what we consider to be vulgar language in general. We also have to realize that this is partly a backlash due to the 2020 BLM riots that were allowed to fester, that nobody was charged for. It seems like one side can do it, the other side can't. And that will not lead to anything good. If anything, it will lead to the unraveling of our society, and whatever racial harmony we had is intentionally being sliced open. The left, it seems to me, is intentionally opening up an old wound and then pouring salt inside and watching the people react as they gain the reins of power. At least that's their attempt.
I think one of your posts is genuinely, is this a psyop? This would be the best $1 million invested by a foreign adversary to start a race war in America. And I knew exactly what you're getting at, because many of the comments, I think the comments have now been suspended actually on both of these funding pages, because people were quite obviously deliberately misusing them to post race baiting commentary.
Absolutely. I mean, if you go through some of the comments on either of them, you have White Lives Matter on one side, and like suggestions that the teenage boy who was stabbed was somehow like a manifestation of white supremacy, and it seems to be just a fight at a track meet that has nothing to do with racial hostility in the first place. And the poor father of this young man who died too said, please don't make this into a racial issue. And yet on his own Give, Send, Go campaign, there are comments after comments saying this is White Lives Matter, we're avenging against Carmelo Anthony's family. I mean, on all ends, this is ugly. I think that it's really co-opting the charity and giving community. I mean, I feel bad for the fundraising platforms, because I don't think this was the intention originally. But unfortunately, I think that people are really starting to take over good intents and the charity industrial complex to make it into a victim industrial complex. And it's really sad to see.
Well, we're going to have one of the founders of the Give, Send, Go site a little later in the program. But Mark Lamont Hill, you were shaking your head there. I mean, what's your take on this?
There are a couple of things that were said that I think are really interesting and important. One, there is an outside audience of people who are watching all of this and opportunistically using it for their own agendas and projects. You know, I have an investment in believing X, so I'm going to jump in the comments of this GoFundMe, etc. I have an investment in Y, I'm going to do the same thing. But what I don't want to do is compare these two things as if they're opposite sides of the same coin. For me, the intention of the campaign matters. In the case of this woman who is using the N-word, the woman isn't disputing using the N-word. The woman isn't disputing being racist. And the comments that are being left on the site before they were suspended, and the attitudes behind it, weren't saying she's being railroaded, she's being misrepresented. They were simply saying, we support racism. And I think that's disgusting, no matter who's doing it. On the other hand, the people who are fundraising for Carmelo Anthony, the argument here isn't, yeah, we did something and we don't care like the other woman. The argument is we're being misrepresented here. We're being railroaded. This was a self-defense claim. This is not
a self-defense claim. I love the way that he's automatically framing it as self-defense. BS, he brought a knife to a track meet, he looked for trouble, and he stabbed the person, the other teenager, in the chest. And you're framing it as a self-defense claim. No, it's fucking murder.
An act of violence. This isn't first-degree murder. I'm saying what they're saying. This isn't my argument. They're saying this is a first-degree murder claim that is wrong. This is actually self-defense, and we need the money to make sure that we get a fair trial.
That's a complete lie, because if it had been a self-defense case of a black-on-black crime, none of these people would have donated. It's the same thing. You're completely reframing the situation as self-defense, and this is what people are donating for, when if you take a look at the numerous donations along with the note they leave, it's, yo, go young brother, yo, this is revenge for the white man. It's a false framing, and this is why Mark Lamont Hill is a disingenuous actor.
And so whether you agree with his argument or not, I think raising money for a fair trial is different than raising money for a racist.
I mean, right. I think the common theme between the two.
The other thing is that a lot of people are getting very tired of being pushed around and saying that you can yell Black Lives Matter, but if you yell White Lives Matter, that's somehow a crime. I mean, it's a substitution of one word, and yet people are getting fired and kicked off of social media for stating such a thing. But Black Lives Matter was all the rage for several years until they stole all the money as the con Marxists that they are.
And this is not to pass any view about it at this stage, although I have strong views about it. I guess the common theme is that both of them say that as a result of all the publicity, they've been doxxed and had all their personal details put everywhere on social media, which is, of course, the modern scourge which gets involved. And that as a result, they've had death threats and they have security issues and they have to move home and so on. You know, I understand that part of the argument. You know, when you're at the center of a firestorm in America and you're not used to public attention, then the levels of intimidation, threats, and so on that can come your way can be extremely intimidating, if not outright dangerous. So it's different really to taking a view about either of the cases to simply say that the commonality is that they both, I think, have said in defending the amounts that have been raised is, well, we have to defend ourselves. Either, as you're putting it, through the courts, but also in his case, the alleged killer, that he also, I think, had direct threats against him.
The killer.
And in the case of the mother using the M-word in that despicable manner, she has said she's had a lot of threats too.
My quick response to that would just be, let's assume everybody's telling the truth. Let's assume she's telling the truth, and let's assume he's telling the truth. If he's telling the truth and he was doing self-defense and he's getting harassed and doxxed, and of course we already know lies have been told about his GoFundMe campaign saying they were spending it on mansions and cars, all the kind of racist tropes. If that's true, he's being mistreated, and I think that's a.
Oh, the poor murderer's been mistreated. Oh, let's all stick up for the murderer. Oh, what a sad state of affairs we're in today.
A sort of very easy case to make. When it comes to her, however, let's assume she's also telling the truth, that she used the word, she thinks the kid was acting like one, she feels like she has the right to use that word against that small baby because of whatever age-appropriate thing the kid did. If she's telling the truth and she's getting doxxed and harassed, I don't know if I want to reward her behavior with $500,000.
I don't want to reward a murderer with $500,000.
She should be doxxed. I don't think she should be harassed. I think she has been mistreated to the extent that no one should be. You have a right to be racist. You have a right to free speech in this country. But I'm not donating money for it, and I feel a lot worse about her.
And nobody is forcing you to donate money. That's the thing. That's the choice. I don't want either of these people to have money donated to them for their actions. I agree with you on that, except you think it's appropriate to donate for what you're framing as a fair trial or the ability to defend yourself when you cold-bloodedly plunged a knife into another person's chest. That fact is indisputed.
Then the one for the person who's been railroaded.
Yeah. Well, Lily Gaddis, you posted a defense of Shiloh on X. It's been viewed 2.5 million times, in which it was entitled, "White People Are Finally Fighting Back. Stand with Shiloh Hendrix." What did you mean by that?
Here's the thing. White people have been under attack for years. It's been systematic racism. As much as Black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges. White people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it. So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity. We don't see white unity on our side.
Hang on. Okay, but hang on. Sorry, just to be clear.
I, for one, don't think that you necessarily need to have a white unity. I don't want to align myself based on race, but if one side is organizing along tribal lines, then from a game theoretical aspect, you almost force the other team, which this woman represents, to do the same. This should not be what America is about. This is an intentional dissolve of the racial cohesion that was achieved when I was a kid, that I saw. I did not experience or see a lot of racism growing up.
This has got nothing to do with anything you just said. This is a disgusting racist woman who repeatedly spews the M-word, first at a young child, and then at the person taking the video of her, does it with complete impunity, does it numerous times. We are talking about a bona fide, unquestionable racist. And so I don't understand why what you've just said to me bears any relation to white unity or anything that you've just said. She's just a racist. End, isn't she? You wouldn't dispute that.
It's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
well, it is about her
coming together and supporting another white person. And it doesn't matter.
Why would you want to support a white racist?
The problem is that when you had Black people, all the money that was raised for George Floyd, all people that protested and burnt down Kenosha for Jacob Blake, who was kidnapping children that he did not have the right to, putting them in his car. He had a knife, all that jazz, and all of the support that he garnered, it was because he was Black and he was deemed to be the victim. And you can say the same thing here. You had a woman that behaved in a manner that I don't condone at all, and yet they are turning her into the victim by trying to go after her on social media, trying to get her canceled. And some people say enough is enough. Is this the end of cancel culture when they realize that trying to cancel somebody backfires? Maybe that is a positive outcome of all this.
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in a country.
No, that's fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. Would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
Mm-hmm. I do, quite frequently.
You use the N-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist.
See, now you're just giving ammo to your opponents.
Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, well, if you use the N-word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendrix is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away. So,
you see, that is cancel culture. You don't cancel somebody for something that they said. You don't take away their children. That does make her a victim and worthy of legal support, because I want people to be able to say whatever the hell they want, because it's much better than settling things in a violent manner. I don't support the cancel impulses that many people have in terms of trying to take away her children. That makes me sick.
You were saying Carmelo Anthony, it doesn't matter. That's a different
Sorry, but just to be
thing.
clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with Black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate to use the N-word?
I will tell you very briefly when it's appropriate. I have a Black friend that I played basketball with. He is bigger than me. He's 6'5", 250. And our one-on-one games went down to the wire almost every time. We had a 7-game series. He won 4, I won 3. I am so tight with him, and we are such good friends that eventually I asked him for permission to say, "You my N-word," and he nodded at me, and I said that to him, and we embraced because we're homies, we're boys. He's my boy in the best possible way. So there are agreed upon terms where you can tell your friend this, or you can use it without it being construed in a negative manner, but rather a positive one. And it takes a lot of time to get there.
When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
Well,
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Well, do you understand that makes you a despicable human being?
Oh my God. You see, this is the problem. This is almost a straw man for whatever good might come out of the end of cancel culture, is you're bringing up this very low IQ woman who can't make an argument. And she's just playing in to all of the stupid tropes that blacks and race baiters and whoever else has ill intentions will be able to use against. She's just not very smart.
I guess so. I don't really care. I mean, why are we not talking about Shiloh Hendrix? Why are we talking about?
Well, actually, I think you've moved it on in this debate very
smart.
quickly to your own racism, which explains why you've supported her in public and why you've got all these views. You see no problem with a woman shrieking the N-word repeatedly because you yourself are a despicable racist, and you've just proudly admitted that with a smug grin on your face, which is pretty horrifying, actually, for most people to have to watch. And shame on you. You're entitled to do it, and I'm entitled to call you despicable.
I think what's despicable is that you brought this woman on to represent these views. Again, it's practically a straw man because most people are not going to argue in the manner that she does. So you're representing the worst argument for the group that are up in arms about the differential treatment that blacks have been getting for the last 5 years.
Well, shame
longer.
on white people for allowing themselves to be systematically discriminated against in the United States. This is our country. This is a country that should be.
What do you mean your country?
Another
because
stupid
I'm
statement
white
by
and
her.
my
What, there are no black people in American history? Is that what you're saying? That they've all just landed in America, invading your white country? Is that your position?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they were brought here technically.
My God, do you understand how dumb you sound?
This is stupid.
Yeah, but that's
this
why
is
you
stupid
brought
and
her
racist,
on.
and at some point we have to ask ourselves: do we want to reward this kind of disgusting behavior by platforming it?
I don't disagree, Mark.
Listen,
I didn't know she was going to say that. I don't disagree with you.
No. Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think you do ahead of time. I'm saying at this moment, someone who's saying it's technically black people brought up. No, technically, Africans were stolen, enslaved, and they built this country. And the idea that
Africans, slaves, did not build this country. They built a small subset of it. Let's be very clear about that. I get very tired of hearing about how black people, everything was built on black people's backs here. Everybody that came to America came penniless, virtually everybody. And we all built this country together. It wasn't the Irish, it wasn't the Italians, it wasn't the blacks, it wasn't the WASP. It was a conglomeration of efforts.
You can justify calling a baby the N-word by saying that white people are losing the country is absurd. It's morally bankrupt, and it's honestly besides the point. I mean, all these are just distractions from the fact that she wants to justify dehumanizing and even animalizing a small black child. It's disgusting.
What is it?
Yeah, I never said that.
No, but you may as well have done because you're just an unashamed.
That's the implication of your racist.
Let me bring in Myron Gaines because you've been smirking and laughing. What's funny about any of this?
Well, I mean, I find it interesting that you guys want to virtue signal and, wag the finger and say she's a racist and everything else like this.
No, she admits she's a racist.
Come on, dude.
Let him talk. At anybody.
She self-identified as a racist.
But Myron, with respect, Myron, I don't need to wag a finger when somebody says, yeah, I'm racist.
You should have done your homework before you brought on this straw man, Pierce.
I use the N-word against black people. I don't care. That's a racist. I'm not wagging any finger. I'm not accusing anybody. She is admitting it proudly. Even you can't defend that, surely.
Everybody is racist to some degree. The reality is it depends on, a lot of people want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not racist at all. We all have biases. We all have stereotypes. We all make jokes. We all are racist to some degree. Now, how racist you are is a whole other situation, but everyone is racist. That's number one. Next thing I want to say, see, I think this Shiloh Hendrix and Metcalf situation is a microcosm of a much bigger problem. And that bigger problem is what I call systemic organizing. And what I mean by this is for decades,
why did they blurt out
we've
the
had
words?
black people
that was not
literally running around with black supremacy, committing crimes, not getting accountability for their actions, and then they blame the system for it. For example, George Floyd, criminal, Ferguson, criminals. Freddie Gray, criminal. A lot of these people are criminals, and what ends up happening is they challenge the police officer, they get into a physical altercation, things go left, they die, something happens, use of force is utilized, and then they want to cry about the result. When in reality, it's not the police killing black people, it's black people killing black people. And if you want to talk about black on white violence, black people kill white people 2 times as much. And on top of that, most of the shootings in America, a lot of the times, are white cops killing other unarmed white men. So this whole systemic racism or police brutality or, oh, it's all so messed up. The reality is this. Black people have been able to get away with a ridiculous amount of privilege in America for a very long time. They're able to be racist with impunity. They're able to call white people crackers without being challenged back. And quite frankly, white America's had enough of it, and the chickens have come to roost. Now, look, am I saying that's awesome? Am I saying that's great? No, but for literally the better part of almost 2 decades since the Obama era, we've had to have BLM and liberalism shoved down our throats, and quite frankly, we're all tired of it.
Yep,
right, but just to be clear, you would have no problem with one member of this panel openly saying she uses the N-word at black people with impunity and is proud of being a racist. You have no problem with that.
My worldview on the protection of the First Amendment and freedom of speech overrides my personal feelings. She has the right to say
That's fine.
it.
You can support the First Amendment, but you can also have a personal view about what she said.
Why are you asking him to virtue signal rather than to discuss his points of view and the merits? This is the same thing. You're asking him to take a knee and to raise the black fist. Yeah, we can condemn it, but this is not what should be discussed. You've already gone over the top. You're doing your own virtue signaling and putting him through a miniature struggle session.
My feelings are irrelevant. The Constitution is the Constitution. That's what matters.
Oh, that's fascinating. Hold on.
It's fascinating.
So when it comes to chastising black Americans about their behavior, about calling white people crackers, as you say, about their moral claims, about the racist system, you can levy a judgment against black Americans.
Yes, because you are not getting any blowback from it. Black people have acted with impunity for quite some time in America. And I understand that racial relations on a personal level might not be all that bad. But when you take a look at what is being reported on in social media and right here, yeah, that is the case. And look at the blowback that everybody virtually is giving this woman. It's not good.
All the things they do. But when it comes to this woman saying the N-word, and this other woman endorsing it and saying that she herself uses the N-word, now all of a sudden we can only talk about the Constitution and the legal right. We can't offer any moral judgment against it. That's disingenuous. And it's
not
as
disingenuous.
Black American up here, that's quite frustrating to hear.
Because we must all take a knee and raise our fist when you command us to. It's a struggle session, and somebody with a view that is in the middle and standing by principles and wanting to talk about different aspects of the situation. No, you must condemn everything.
If you want to be soft and get offended by that, that's your fucking problem, not mine.
Let me ask Ricky.
We're not even.
Let me ask Ricky. Ricky,
this isn't about being soft any more than when you were desperately saving these white people.
Hold on. This sensitive nature that you have is precisely why we have this problem.
It's not about being sensitive. It's about I didn't articulate. Hold on. Let me finish, Myron. Let me speak and then I'll let you respond. Myron, sure. I didn't articulate any sensitivity here. What I said, in the same way that you levied a judgment against black people, I'm levying one against the claims you're making. I'm no more sensitive than you were when you made your claim. I'm simply saying I disagree with you. And
no, you're asking him and demanding that he agree with you and kneel.
To immediately jump to you're being sensitive is just a distraction. I'm making an argument here. Just respond to my argument.
No, and my argument to respond to that is this. Political correctness, liberalism, and making sure that we are politically correct and don't use certain words to offend people is precisely why we're in the situation that we're in. For decades, we've had to literally tiptoe around saying certain things around certain people, while the other group of people has been able to have impunity and be able to be as racist as they want to be, as violent as they want to be, without any type of consequence. And if you call it out, you're labeled a racist. The reality is this. Black people don't want to live around black people. I don't want to live around a bunch of black people. I move to neighborhoods where it's majority white because I know I'm safe. Now, this is uncomfortable reality that no one wants to say, so I'll say it for them. Black people commit a lot of crimes. A majority of the violent crime committed in the United States is committed by a small percentage of people, and they tend to be black men. Look, the reality is the reality. People don't want to say it, But the political correctness and being nice and not wanting to tell the truth is precisely this problem. And the reason why you're seeing all the support for Metcalf and Shiloh, etc., is because white people have not been able to step up and say what they want to say for a very long time because of what I said before, systemic, organized, where they don't take accountability.
Hold on. I want to eliminate Metcalf from that equation. He was murdered in cold blood. You could say the same thing about Shiloh. There is significant blowback to the donations that were given to Carmelo Anthony, which total in excess of $500,000. That is true. But let's eliminate Metcalf from that equation because anybody should be able to support that as being an evil, despicable act by a thug.
All right, let me bring in Ricky to respond. Ricky.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say that I agree that virtue signaling went too far, that political correctness went too far, but we're going from virtue signaling being the norm and being praised to now vice signaling being the norm and being praised. It's not just a matter of does this woman have the right to use that word? I believe that she has the right. I disagree with it. But is she now being rewarded with $500,000? Why are we rewarding people for performing vice instead of virtue? This is.
I agree that we should not be rewarding it. But to explain why, as I previously did, it's because people are tired of cancel culture. They attempted to cancel her, to deprive her of her livelihood because of word that she chose to use. And people have had enough, and it reached the tipping point, the boiling point. And this is a spillover of the repression of and the unfairness in terms of how one race in America was given completely preferential treatment in the courts. If you go to a court of law in a blue jurisdiction and your skin color is black, they actually have it embedded into the law, as unconstitutional as it is, that race plays a role in your sentencing. I'm not making that up. You can look in Oakland, in Alameda County, and the former prosecutor there, Pamela something. And that was absolutely in the law there, and it was given in instructions to the prosecutors. It's just ridiculous, and that is racism, and that is what people are trying to free themselves from.
Not healthy. This is destructive to our society. This is destructive to our social fabric, to our culture, to our ability to live with other fellow Americans. It's gross to reward someone for bad behavior. It's one thing to tolerate it, to say that she has the right to do it, but she called an autistic 5-year-old the N-word. Like, I'm sorry, but I feel like we're kind of like missing the point in the actual context. You can say that it's part of this bigger meta story of black and white America, but it actually is just like a short little clip, and you don't even know the context of it, and it's actually gross. And if we can't just say that it's gross and bad, then I don't really know where we are.
Well, I think it's interesting to me that Lily Gaddis, you retweeted Nick Fuentes, the white supremacist, by saying he said black people just raised $500,000 for a cold-blooded killer who stabbed a white teenager to death. So I don't want to hear one word about the Shiloh Hendrix fundraiser. Either everyone gets to be tribal or nobody does.
That's not an unfair point.
Why would you retweet that?
Because I agree with it. Because we have to fight fire with fire. I mean,
the question is, why do you disagree with it? You have people that are raising $500,000 based on tribalism for a killer, and then you have other people that are raising some money for somebody that said a word. Which crime is worse, murder or a negative word that shouldn't be said to, especially to a 5-year-old autistic kid? Yeah, both behaviors are abhorrent, but which one is worse, murder or using a word? I think I'd rather be around the racist.
Point. Why
are nobody does?
Why are Jewish people allowed to be tribal? Why are black people allowed to be tribal? But as soon as white people stand up for themselves, we're labeled a racist. And by the way, you call people racist when you want them to stop talking about things.
No, I called you a racist because you admitted you were racist. Hang on. I called, just to be clear, I called you a racist because you openly, proudly admitted you're a racist. So it wasn't a question of exposing you or pointing my finger or trying to get this out of you. You proudly sat there, bold as brass, and said, yeah, I use the N-word all the time against black people. I'm a racist and I'm proud of it. That's what you did.
Racism is just having a preference.
This is the modern day Jerry Springer show. You bring one really stupid person that you think is going to get you ratings on who cannot make the argument, Piers. This is intentionally done, and I've lost respect for you because this is not a panel full of intellects that are openly discussing ideas. You just brought on the straw man of racism.
I prefer not to live around black people. I prefer not to live in a country where white people in our country are disproportionately attacked by black people. Where in my country, you can have an Austin Metcalf where he asks a guy to leave and he gets stabbed in the heart. I prefer that. That's a preference. Now, what a real racist is, in my opinion, is seeing someone as less human. I'm a Christian. I believe everyone's created in God's image. So I don't see anyone as less human. But that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have a preference and say, I don't like what happens to be coming out of this community or that community. How is that a bad thing? How is that not just a preference?
Because you've literally made black people sound lesser humans. You don't want to live around them. You want to use the N word in relation to them, a word that you know causes that community unbelievable offense.
Is that my fault? Is that my fault? If they have bad behavior, if they want to act in a certain way, if I have to cross the street and be afraid that maybe because of the crime statistics that are very real, by the way, is that my fault or is that their fault for having bad behavior?
That's mind-boggling to me for multiple reasons. I mean, we're talking about bad behavior. You know, we've never lynched you. We've never enslaved you.
Yes, you have. The number of people that went around during Black Lives Matter that beat people up based on their race, that were threatening other people, that burnt down businesses, that had the law go after somebody who defended themselves. His name was Jake in Nebraska, and he was being strangled by somebody that had attacked his business, and he shot him, and they demanded that charges be brought against him when he was clearly in self-defense, and the local DA did not want to do so, and then because he succumbed to the pressure and he ended up shooting himself. Don't give me that shit, Mark Lamont Hill.
Never done any of the deep-seated structural forms of injustice to white people that white people have done to black people, and yet to claim some kind of moral.
Really? Did you know about the Barbary pirates that used to enslave white people? Slavery used to go on around the world. Just because in America it happened largely to black people, there were such things as indentured servants early on. And yes, black people were enslaved in America, as they were in Arabia, as they were in Africa. Slavery is a worldwide tradition that made economic sense to the victors when might made right. That's the unfortunate truth about humanity. But don't say that white people have not been systematically also discriminated against, because the whole world has. And in fact, today in modern day America, the fact is, as I stated earlier, you're much better off being in front of a jury if you are black in various counties, especially the blue ones around the United States.
Superiority. In the midst of, and again, in the context of a conversation where a white woman is calling a 5-year-old autistic child the N-word, and we're talking about black people's bad behavior, this is absurd. And the idea of fighting fire with fire.
You know what's absurd is the fact that you're comparing using the N-word to cold-blooded murder and stabbing somebody in the heart and trying to frame it as self-defense.
Again, is a dishonest argument. Just to take us back to the point here. The people who are supporting Carmelo Anthony's campaign believe that he was wrongfully charged, and they're trying to get him legal defense.
They were donating to him based on race, and they say so in the comment section.
The people who are defending this woman are saying, yes, we know you called the 5-year-old autistic black child the N-word, and we want more of it. We approve of it. We support it. These are not
we're
the
tired
same
of cancel
thing.
culture, maybe.
Bonkers to me
what they're saying.
That we couldn't all stand and say, hey, it is wrong to call a 5-year-old autistic black child the N-word. I mean,
okay, I agree.
Let me just ask you that question. I think this is a yes or no question. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think the woman was wrong to do what she did to that child in that park?
I don't approve of that. But what I will say is that it's very important to understand the entire context of what led us to this position. Because again, Metcalf and Hendrix is a microcosm of a much larger problem. Earlier, we were talking about tribalism when you were mentioning Nick Fuentes' tweet. Here's the thing. Black people could be as tribal as they want to be. You have people like Tariq Nasheed, Dr. Umar Johnson running around about black power and marry black women and keep it in the hood and all this other stuff. But if white people assemble and say, you know what, white power, we need to keep our nation white, they're immediately ostracized and labeled as supremacists, and they get banned off every single platform. I find that interesting. And matter of fact, you went ahead
and you mentioned—
the same thing. No, actually, it is the same thing. Because here's the problem with black people.
No,
you
it's not.
Hold on, let me
triggered,
finish
Mark.
this. Black people practice the very racism they cry about. You guys can gather together and say Black Lives Matter, Black Power, but if white people get together and say white power and gather together, they're considered white supremacists and they get banned off every single platform. Why is that Jared Taylor and Nick Fuentes are banned off every platform for practicing white nationalism, but Black people are allowed to stand every single platform getting interviews on a Breakfast Club? Explain that to me. There's a two-tier situation here where Black people are able to benefit off of being racist while whites are not. And what we're dealing with right now in America is literally a backlash to this Black supremacy has been able to run around unchecked for a long time, and no one has the balls to call it out. Here's the other thing I want to say. Everyone's flipping out over Shiloh Hendrix is saying the N-word.
Can I respond to the point you just made, though?
No, hold on. Nobody flipped out like this when the United States was getting destroyed in 2020 because of Black protests destroying every liberal city in America. So I don't want to hear it about, she made $100,000 because she said the N-word. Who cares? They destroyed billions of dollars of structure because someone got killed who was a criminal. That's the problem in America. You guys get a privilege that no one else gets to enjoy. You could be racist.
Okay, Myron, your last words on this.
Okay. Because I never got to respond to Myron's other.
The thing with tribalism, it's a natural human instinct. Like, we are literally designed to want to be in communities and want to be a part of a set of community because it ensures our survival. It's been that way since the beginning of time. So the thing is that people are typically going to align with people that share similar features. And that's why we have the tribalism we have going on right now. So the problem is it's not going to go anywhere. I think the problem is that we've had this penting up for literally decades, and this has been a response to it. You have people that are coming out and supporting someone who you guys might deem as a terrible racist, but I think it's also very important to understand how we got here, because if we're going to look at the smaller problem, we can't look at the bigger problem, and it's what I said before, unchecked, systemic.
All right, Mark Lamont Hill, your last words on this.
This repeated use of the word, I think, first of all, I want to just register that as offensive, particularly as someone who doesn't identify as a member of that community and who is not, right? I think that's incredibly
I'm the definition of African-American. I'm the definition of African-American.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And
why is Piers editing this stuff out? I don't understand. Yes, you're from Africa. You're an American now. You're an African-American. Same as Elon Musk.
As a Sudanese American or an outsider who's using African-American in a very technical term, the same way that Elon Musk is an African-American, I think it is a bit disingenuous. But the bigger...
And you're talking about not lighting along tribal lines. See, it's okay because you're forming your own group, Mark. You are getting the Black Americans who have been here since slavery, and you are saying that we must be able to recognize that. And anybody who uses the term African-American, no, that belongs to us. And therefore, we are the ones entitled to the special privileges, not you, Myron Gaines.
Issue here, I think, is that this idea of equating of one side to the other side often loses track of this issue of power. To use his example, when Black people stand up and say, hey, let's build our own stuff. Hey, let's have a Black power movement. That is not the same as a white power. I'll let you speak uninterrupted. Let me finish, please. My Sudanese brother. So when a Black person says, hey, let's preserve our culture, I have no problem with Italians or Irish people or anyone else saying let's preserve our culture. But when we don't talk about ethnicity, but actual race, when white people say let's preserve whiteness, it's an exclusionary practice. It's about preserving laws.
And Black power is not?
And practices and tactics that do harm to other people. A Black power movement was about opening stores and building businesses. A white power movement.
No, Black power was about usurping power from the white man and destroying them. That is the reality of Black Lives Matter as the power fist went up.
Was a white power? That's the giga. A white power movement was about something very, 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 very different. A white power movement included lynchings and included Ku Klux Klan, etc. So let's not pretend that these are opposite sides of the same coin. When white people say let's save our country, and even using the language of our country, when Black people built this thing, when you say that, you're talking about forcing people out of the country. You're talking about laws that discriminate. You're talking about doing harm to people. Let's not pretend these are the same thing, just like these GoFundMe campaigns are not the same thing. I'm okay if everybody gets out of the GoFundMe industrial complex. I'd love that. But let's not pretend that supporting someone for a fair trial is the same thing as support.
False framing. You are supporting him. Many people stated so in the comments because it was revenge against the white man. Don't try to misframe what actually took place. None of y'all care about a fair trial. Otherwise, you'd be donating to the brother in Chicago who shot his rival gang member over the weekend. Y'all aren't.
A grown white woman berating and calling the N-word to a 5-year-old autistic Black child. And the fact that everyone in here can't be unanimous in condemning that
I totally
says
agree.
exactly how they're not the same.
I totally agree. I'm going to go to Lily Gaddis and just ask you one more time. I mean, you've been so unashamedly proud of being a racist today, proud of using the N-word whenever you feel like it. You've had a bit of time to think about this. Is that how you want people to leave this panel debate, with thinking of you as a disgusting racist?
I don't really care what people think about me. As long as you care about what people think about you, you have no power and you lose your country. What I care about is freedom of speech. And if you're not allowed to say the most offensive things in this country, you do not have freedom of speech. I don't care what anybody says. So that's the main crux of this situation. That's what I care about with this situation. It is, we have lived for far too long in a country where you can have your life destroyed. And people say, oh, she doesn't need this money. Her life's destroyed, by the way. She'll never be able to get another job. She's got children to have to support. And I don't want to live in a country where you can say an inappropriate, rude thing, which, by the way, Black people can say things to white people all the time and they never get canceled. There's no backlashing about this. I want to live in a country where people are allowed to say what they want unashamedly. And you will
well, go
not
on, then
have
say it. Say
you
the
will
M-
not have
Go on,
free
say,
speech.
go on.
Okay,
say the
Piers,
M-word.
you're
Go
after
on.
ratings. This is
But
No,
BS.
hang on.
You brought on the straw man.
No.
I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me, because I'm the only on here. So if she says it, I'm the victim of it. So please don't invite
I'm
her
the
for
victim.
ratings.
That's
to
what
call
you
me the
want.
N-word, 'cause that's basically what it's going to be. There's a bunch of white people up here. You and one Uncle Tom on the left here, and
Uncle Tom? Okay, so you don't want her to use a racially insensitive word, but you call him an Uncle Tom? Nobody can see the irony, can they? Because they're too stupid, according to you, and you're just going to defend yourself, the Uncle Tom.
asking her to say the N-word while I'm here is ridiculous. You would not sit here with a Jewish person and say, please use a
What's he
Jewish slur
blocking out?
in front of this Jewish. It's ridiculous. I understand you don't have any bad intent, Piers. I understand what you're trying to do.
I-
But we
you know
already
what,
know
Mark?
she's
I hear
racist.
you.
And I don't want to invite
Mark,
a racial harm to me.
I
to
hear
prove
you.
Racial
I hear
harm,
you,
oh my
and I
God.
accept that, and we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Wow, that was really quite the panel. I have to say that Piers brought on the white straw man, a very unintelligent woman who could not make a case. How did we get to the point where there's significant backlash against the attempted cancellation of this woman, where she raises nearly $1 million, $700,000, whatever it might be, for her family for vulgar behavior? It's because at some point the cauldron boils over. This whole Mark Lamont Hill thing, framing the murder of Austin Metcalf as self-defense, and this is why they're donating, that's absolute bullshit. So let's call it out on both sides, that there is racism on the Black side of the aisle, on the leftist side of the aisle, and that this is a reaction. And the straw man of a woman, the blonde one that they put up, that does not represent the majority of people that are feeling this way. Actually, Myron Gaines gave a much better presentation than she did of the argument against the leftist totalitarians. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Peace out.